last week and Easter and all that you've done in the hearts of people. Just pray that you would continue to water and nurture that seed that was planted and that many, many people will come to Christ. We pray now that also that you would lead us as we study religions and worldviews, and that you would help us to be wise in our understanding, and that we might use this for your glory. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, we left off last week on talking about Hinduism, I believe. We just got it started, and then our time was up, so I want to come back to Hinduism. And I'd like us to actually start with a video clip. It's a little long, but it's a recent movie that will kind of give us a little bit of a little picture of Hinduism. And it's from the life of Pi. So one second.
When I was 12, we were visiting relatives, tea growers in the north. It was our third day there. Ravi and I were terribly bored.
Challenge. I'll give you 2 rupees. Run into that church and drink the holy water.
Put subtitles on, you can do that. That might be helpful. Okay.
You must be thirsty. Here, I brought you this.
Why would a God do that? Why would he send his own son to suffer for the sins of ordinary people?
Because he loves us. God made himself approachable to us, human, so we could understand him. We can't understand God in all his perfection, but we can understand God's Son and his suffering as we would have brothers.
That made no sense. Sacrificing the innocent to atone for the sins of the guilty. What kind of love is that? But this son, I couldn't get him out of my head.
If God is so perfect and we are not, why would he want to create all this? Why does he need us at all?
All you have to know is that he loves us. God so loved this world that he gave his only son.
The longer I listened to the priest, the more I came to like this Son of God.
Thank you, Vishnu, for introducing me to Christ.
I came to faith through Hinduism, and I found God's love through Christ. But God wasn't finished with me yet. God works in mysterious ways. And so it was he introduced himself again, this time by the name of Allah. My Arabic was never very good, but the sound and feel of the words brought me closer to God. In performing Salah, the ground I touched became holy ground, and I found a feeling of serenity and brotherhood.
lamb is exquisite. It's the best dish on the table. You're all missing out. You only need to convert to 3 more religions, Piscine, and you'll spend your life on holidays.
Are you going to Mecca this year, Swami Jesus? Or to Rome for your coronation as Pope Pius?
You stay out of this, Ravi. Just as you like cricket, Pai has his own interests.
No, Gita, Ravi has a point. You cannot follow 3 different religions at the same time, Piscine.
Why not?
Because believing in everything at the same time is the same as not believing in anything at all.
He's young, Santosh. He's still finding his way.
And how can he find his way if he does not choose a path? Listen, instead of leaping from one religion to the next, why not start with reason? In a few hundred years, science has taken us farther in understanding the universe than the religion has in 10,000.
That is true. Your father is right. Science can teach us more about what is out there, but not what is in here.
Yeah, some eat meat, some eat vegetable. I do not expect us all to hear about everything, but I would much rather have you believe in something I don't agree with than to accept everything blindly. And that begins with thinking rationally. You understand? Good.
I would like to be baptized.
Okay. To follow what was going on, the dad is an unbeliever. He's an atheist. Believes in science. Mom's Hindu. Grew up Hindu in India. And then he embraced Christianity. He actually gave thanks to a Hindu god for introducing him to Christianity. Then he embraced Islam. And this is a very much a part of Hinduism. What he experienced is not in opposition to Hinduism at all. Is it in opposition to Christianity or Islam? How so?
Well, if you reject or if you accept another God other than Allah for Islam or Jesus Christ for Christianity, then you in effect deny them.
Okay. So if you were to go by the religion of Islam from the Quran via Muhammad, they would say from their Quran, and you're absolutely correct, we'll see this later, that that would not be acceptable. In fact, the one thing you couldn't accept is Jesus as the Son of God, because the Quran says God cannot have a son. So, and they would say that that's like one of their worst of all sins, is to commit, I think the word is shirk, which means to claim that God has any children or any parts, that kind of thing as well. So that would be true for Islam. Christianity, you mentioned, is there a place in the Bible that would disagree with it? Yes.
Well, it's idolatry.
Okay, it would be idolatry is prohibited. And you said?
Acts 4:12, salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to men by which we must be saved.
Okay, so according to the Bible, this would not be acceptable. But according to Hinduism, we'll see this a little bit. We'll look at some of their scriptures. This is perfectly okay. So it's okay for Hinduism to say it's okay to embrace the other gods. They believe in millions of gods. Hinduism embraces millions of gods. To add one or two more is no problem at all in Hinduism.
Is that true of all pantheism or just Hindu?
Yeah, it's pretty much true of all pantheism. Yeah, but definitely true of Hinduism, as we'll see when we look at some of their scriptures. So it's just a picture there of what we were talking about. I think I introduced some of the truths of pantheism. Pantheism, but also specifically, particularly Hinduism. And I said Atman is Brahman, right? But then that's where I stopped. Is that correct? Okay. So Atman is Brahman. That means God is the universe. That Atman, that would include humans, that would include all of the universe, creation, that is Brahman. That Brahman is God. So the universe is God. What are the implications of this, if this is true? That the universe is God. I'm sorry, what? Really, why? But if the universe is God, that would include both good and evil, right?
There's no wrong.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean take care of it? Trash it? Take care of it? What's the difference? It's all God. There is no wrong, there is no evil, there is no good. All is Brahman. Right? I mean, that sounds nice. Let's take care of the universe. But I think we're putting in some of our Western values into these Eastern thoughts in our statements like that. What else would this entail? The universe is God. We are God. We just forgot. Yes?
What is not God then?
Okay, what is nothing? What is not God? Okay. How does this... let me read some... let's see here. I have the Vedas of Hinduism, some of their scriptures. It says, "Who sees the many and not the one wanders on from death to death. Even by the mind this truth is to be learned. There are not many, but only one. Who sees variety and not the unity wanders on from death to death. As water raining on a mountain ridge runs down the rocks on all sides, so the man who sees variety of things runs after them on all sides. There are not many, but only one." What's he saying there? When pantheism says that the universe is God, it doesn't mean that you're a part of God, you're a part of God, the chair is a part of God, the stars are a part of God. It means there is no difference. All the differentiation that we see, the you and me, the separateness, that's all an illusion. Maya. It means everything is God. All of this is an illusion. Therefore, there is no evil, there is no good. All is simply God. All of this is not real. This class is not real. Okay? That's what the Hindu scriptures, the Vedas, teach. And let's see, something else here. Another thing from the Upanishads, another passage of the Hindu scriptures. Even as all leaves come from a stem, all words come from the sound Om. Om is the whole universe. Om is in truth the whole universe. Om, this eternal word, is all. What was, what is, and what shall be, and what beyond is in eternity. All is Om. Om is everything. That's what it said. I don't know why I'm Om. I'm just saying this. I'm just reading their book. I don't understand it. It's something perhaps because of our Western thinking, maybe we can't fully comprehend this. I'm willing to admit that. But what it says, we certainly can evaluate. And it says everything, all is Om. That's why they chant that in some of their things. They go Om, whatever. All is Om. The universe is Om.
How do they know that? Where did they get their scriptures? How did they get their
Good question. How do they know that? Where did they get their scriptures? Because do they have scriptures? Aren't the scriptures, isn't everything just an illusion? And there are no scriptures? And there's just Om? I mean, that's how I'm understanding this. Yes?
I'd like to say that Om, they believe, is a sound that still reverberates after the Big Bang.
Uh-huh.
So they say if you're in outer space, that's the sound you hear, the vibrations.
But from these two passages that I read, and I hear them saying that because they believe in millions of gods, but then they say everything is God. It's a contradiction, isn't it?
I've heard it's monotheistic though, but they do have like one overarching God and then the smaller.
Smaller gods underneath the overarching God, but then they say everything is Maya, so everything is an illusion, so there really is just Om.
Everything that God is an illusion. But God's not an illusion.
Right. God is not an illusion, right? But all is God. So there's no differentiation, meaning there's really no Big Bang. There's no universe to go bang.
Well, I know
it's just all is God. I know. I once again, I'm just saying, this is what they seem to teach two different things, don't they? In Hinduism, that's how I'm understanding it. Millions of God, one God. Everything's an illusion, but yet, we should practice these things in order to get off the wheel of reincarnation and so forth, but none of this is actually real. It just seems like it's almost like two different worlds that they somehow embrace both when they are contradictory.
Because they do believe in evil and that, our next life, of course, we call it Maha Samadhi.
Well, yeah, in fact, when we get to the third truth, karma, they do believe in evil. They believe in that everyone must pay for the evil that they have done in their past lives. So they do believe in evil, yet they say everything is God, which means there is no good or evil. It's all God.
So,
even evil is God.
So they put Allah at the top?
No, they don't put Allah.
No,
Brahman is kind of what they use normally for their term of the head God.
Oh, head God.
Yeah,
so
the top.
Hinduism is based on spirits and gods.
Gods.
Yeah.
Many gods, but really there's only one God because everything is God, including the universe. So Atman is Brahman. The next one we see from their scriptures, all roads lead to the one. Let's see here. From the Hindu scriptures, mother, 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 everyone foolishly assumes that his clock alone tells correct time. And I think these are later scriptures. I'm not sure which one this comes from. Christians claim to possess exclusive truth. Countless varieties of Hindus insist that their sect, no matter how small and insignificant, expresses the ultimate position. Devout Muslims maintain that Quranic revelation supersedes all others. The entire world is being driven insane by this single phrase, "My religion alone is true." O Mother, you have shown me that no clock is entirely accurate. And Mother, by the way, is capitalized. No clock is entirely accurate. Only the transcendent Son of Knowledge remains on time. Who can make a system from divine mystery? But if any sincere practitioner within whatever culture or religion prays and meditates with great devotion and commitment to truth alone, your grace will flood his mind and heart, O Mother. His particular sacred tradition will be opened and illuminated. He will reach the one goal of spiritual evolution. Mother, 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 how I long to pray with sincere Christians in their churches and to bow prostrate with devoted Muslims in their mosques, all religions are glorious. Now let's just examine this passage here, okay? First of all religions are glorious. Would that include Satanism? It did say all. Perhaps it meant exceptions, but just didn't mention those exceptions. Does that mean all aspects of all religions, like jihad? So those are questions to ask. It says here, no clock is entirely accurate. My question is this entirely true? No. Yeah, no clock is entirely accurate. It seems to be saying that nothing is entirely accurate, but that sounds like an entirely accurate statement, doesn't it? To say that nothing is entirely accurate. If nothing is entirely accurate, then at least that statement is entirely accurate, which would then make the statement false, because it says nothing is entirely accurate. Do you follow? And if any sincere practitioner, why is sincerity the ultimate value? Who made sincerity the ultimate value?
We are God, so if we're one with ourselves or truth, from their perspective, maybe. Okay,
sure. But, this is something that we have to be careful of, because sometimes we make sincerity is a good thing. I think we should all be sincere, right? But I don't know that I would elevate it as the chief value of all values, and that seems to be what they're doing here.
Is it not similar to Christianity in that the Bible says, whoever honestly, sincerely seeks me will find me? And so if they're seeking truth, we know truth is Jesus.
Okay.
So would that not be, at least that little kernel, maybe a little bit consistent with what we believe?
Possibly, yeah. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart, but it's you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart, not seek anything. So it's not just seeking truth or seeking some nebulous being, whatever. It does say, commitment to truth alone, with great devotion and commitment to truth alone. But a question that I had is, how can you be committed when you don't know where it is or what it is? And then everything, these are just things to ponder as we are looking at this particular religion. All roads lead to the one. What are the implications of that?
That there is just one.
That there is really just one road? Okay.
That Jesus did not have to die, because there are many ways to get to salvation, right?
Sure, it's just one. Yeah, but that was a nice road.
Well,
just kidding. Someone say something over here. The one what? Okay.
The one who?
I don't know. I'm assuming God.
The one God?
Yeah. Or maybe,
many gods.
I don't know. Right, because it seems what they're saying is it doesn't matter what God, all gods are the same. But are they so far? Have we, in our evaluation of the different gods of these different religions, are they really all the same?
What if your one road is accurate all the time?
Is what?
What if your one road is not accurate all the time?
If your one road is not accurate, yeah, well, they would just say it is, that all roads lead to the one. But it would make all religions right? All religions are correct. But what about the religions that say other religions are wrong? Wouldn't those other religions that say other religions are wrong be wrong? But they said all religions are right. So that would mean the religions that say all other religions are wrong are right, because all religions are right? They would be what? Yeah, but they have to be right in saying they're wrong. But that would make them wrong in saying they're right. So it seems to me that we have a conundrum here.
Would they say something like, each time you come back or something, you'll reach a higher level of consciousness, so now you wouldn't feel like you did back then when you thought they were wrong.
Maybe.
You have a higher level of
We'll get to karma in just a minute, but maybe that's how they answered. I don't know. But then you would be wrong for thinking that. Yes. Yes. In fact, I think Hinduism, if you were to say to them, your beliefs are not logical, they would say, so? Because you have just stuck yourself trapped in your little mind of logic, and God is everything. So get over to yourself. I don't know. No, I don't think they say that. But did what? It's possible, and there is definitely a gradual evolution of Hinduism as they went on, but they're very ancient religion. I mean, it's long BC. No. Buddhism came out of Hinduism.
Right, and then they left.
Yeah, Buddhism left, yeah. Mm-hmm. But they started, belief in many gods, and then this more philosophical understanding of the all is God, that came later. When I say later, though, it was still pretty early. It was BC, that time period. But then when these other religions came along, since they already believed all roads lead to the one, said, of course you're right. Another one, though, is karma. Okay, karma is very important to Hinduism. Salvation is to be freed from the curse of incarnation, of reincarnation, usually through extreme asceticism. But the idea of reincarnation to the Hindu is not a good thing. They see that as a tremendous evil, that you are continuously coming back in another life until you pay for the past sins of your past lives. Karma states that for every evil, you must pay for that evil. So there's absolutely no room for grace in Hinduism. None. Because karma is an absolute law. And so the tragedy is that when you come back in another life, you don't remember your past life, and so then you end up committing more sins, and so you keep on going this way. But the way to get off that vicious wheel is through extreme asceticism. Practices of doing without, of beating your body, those kinds of things. They also, because of this, the caste system came into belief. That was one of the Vedas, the idea of the caste system. But the caste system definitely fits the idea of karma. That you have certain groups of people, I think it was like 7 castes, and then they have the unmentionables or untouchables that they're not even one of the 7 castes. And those are the people that live in the streets and starve and all those kinds of things. The reason why they have these hard and fast castes is because if you try to help someone who is hurting, you're not actually helping them. Because they are suffering from their past sins due to karma, and if you help them, they're just going to have to come back and suffer anyway, again. So you might as well let them suffer so that they can finish off their karma. Now, Gandhi spoke out against the caste system, but not because he followed true Hinduism. The caste system definitely fits this idea of karma. But of course, if logic doesn't matter, then you can speak out against it, even though it fits your system and is actually a part of your system, just because it doesn't matter if you're... But think about karma here now. Okay, this is point C, karma. Does point C contradict point A? It's judgment. God is judging himself? If everything is God, what in the world does that mean? It's nonsensical. Others later began to speak of a devotion to Krishna. Krishna is a particular part in later Hinduism, but they believe that devotion to Krishna could release you from some of this karma that you have to pay. So almost a little bit of grace there, so to speak. But once again, it doesn't fit what their scriptures teach and these main truths, because no Hindu would disagree with any of these three truths that I've said so far. This is simply a part of understanding Hinduism. And so you have this idea of karma, and then paying through karma through extreme asceticism. What does the Bible teach about that, just in comparison here with the Christian worldview that we saw? What does the Bible teach about asceticism? Asceticism is extreme harshness to your body in order to obtain favor from God. Okay. Right. So and that's true, Jesus took our punishment upon himself, but asceticism almost sounds like a self-punishment. It's not even a God punishing us for our sins, it's us punishing ourselves in order to gain God's favor.
That's like our righteousness.
Yeah.
Well, all of this is another work.
Yeah, it works. Look at Colossians. You got your Bibles? Colossians chapter 2, verses 22 and 23. Yeah, 222. Mark's favorite number. Colossians 2, 22 and 23. Someone want to read that?
Sure. Such rules are mere human teachings, for food was made to be eaten and used up. These rules may seem good, but for rules of this kind require strong devotion and are humiliating and hard on the body, but they have no effect when it comes to conquering a person's evil thoughts and desires. They only make him proud.
Okay. So what rules is he talking about? Man-made rules or regulations is what mine. Self-what? Self-imposed regulations. Mine actually says promoting ascetic practices, severe treatments of the body. It says here they are of no value. That's what the scriptures say. This idea of asceticism, of hurting yourself in order to try to gain favor from God, actually has no value. It does not help you at all. It is a man-made rule, not a scriptural rule. But they would say that, Hinduism would say that this is how you get deal with your karma. Now, when we get to Buddhism in just a minute, we'll see that this is the major issue that Buddha had against Hinduism, and why he came up with Buddhism. But history is cyclical. It is not, there's a beginning, it goes on, and there's an end. History just keeps going round and round and round. I'm not sure I really even understand this. And perhaps it's because of my Western thinking. Personally, I think my Western thinking in this regard is accurate. Have you ever heard that? I mean, quite often even in Christian circles, where Greek philosophy and Western thinking are both accused as being the most evil of all evils. And Greek philosophy is evil at times. We saw some of that this morning even. But Western thinking isn't all bad, right? I kind of like air conditioning and other things that come from Western thinking. And what? And heat.
But what I was going to say, I had a professor that said history repeats itself over and over and over again. It doesn't stop.
Right.
Because man does not look at his mistakes.
Right. And I think we do repeat our same mistakes, but that's not what they're saying here. They're not just using this as a principle that, we keep making the same mistakes. They're saying somehow history is not linear. It just keeps on making loops. There's no end to it because...
Well, are they saying something like, it starts with like the Big Bang and works its way through to the end, and then the Big Bang just starts again?
That might be similar to what they're saying. Once again, I can't put words into their mouths when they say this, because it seems like they're saying even something beyond that, but that seems a lot more accurate than just we repeat the same mistakes. I think that is, somehow it comes around again, and so, I don't know. But anyway, that's what they teach. Revelation 21, 1 through 8 would be opposite to this. So once again, we're comparing these world religions. Christianity says, Revelation 21, 1 through 8, a great passage of Scripture that teaches at the very end, this great truth when Jesus returns, sets up his kingdom, creates the new creation, the holy city, the new Jerusalem comes down from heaven, and it says, look, God is dwelling with humanity, He will live with them, they will be His people, God Himself will be with them and be their God, He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, death will no longer exist, grief, crying, pain will exist no longer because the previous things have passed away. And it just goes on in this regard. There's a punishment of the wicked in the end there, but here there's a finality. God is living with us. We don't then all of a sudden cease all this and it all starts over again. It culminates and so the history is linear as opposed to cyclical. Anyway, that one there, I would love to talk to a Hindu and ask them what they mean by that. But let's go to Buddhism now, okay? Because Buddhism, over 300 million adherents of Buddhism, began with Siddhartha Gautama. I have here a little bit of the history of what happened. So oops, wrong book. Is that right? Siddhartha Gautama, however you say his name, popularly known as the Buddha, was the founder of Buddhism, born about 560 BC in India. He was a contemporary of Confucius and Zoroaster. The Buddha was raised in a wealthy family. Tradition states that wonderful signs were attached to his birth and that his mother miraculously conceived him. A Hindu sage told his father that his son would be a world-famous king or a Buddha, which means the enlightened one. The father attempted to shield his growing son from the unpleasantries and evils of life. His son was married and had a child. However, one day Buddha saw 4 sights which caused him deep concern. He saw an old man, a dying man, a dead man, and a holy man. The sight of age and death alarmed him, and the Hindu sage intrigued him, and he left his family to begin a life of spiritual pilgrimage in the forests. He became a student of Hindu gurus. He meditated on Hindu philosophy. He followed the strict discipline of an ascetic life, often in self-flagellation, but there was no satisfaction in his quest for the Hindu holy life. Then the experience of enlightenment came to him. He was in meditation under a fig tree when truth apprehended him. He then formulated his teachings, which he called the 4 Noble Truths. We'll talk about those in a moment. And the Eightfold Path. Through sermons and invitations, the Buddha gathered a core of disciples who followed him and formed the first monastery. Buddhism was on the way to becoming an alternate choice for the people of India. So it starts in India. He's a Hindu. This will then quickly spread to other countries and actually become far more popular in other countries, China especially, in other countries. But he was a Hindu, but was through this enlightenment process that took place, he realized some of the things that Hinduism was saying was too hard. It was just too hard to get off of the wheel of reincarnation. And so he came up with his 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path that would then help us to get off the wheel of reincarnation. When I look at this, though, he sees these 4 things, and then he likes the guru guy, and so he leaves his family. I think that was wrong, personally. Leave his wife and kids just because he wants to go sit in a fig tree or whatever and meditate under a fig tree. I don't think that's right at all. But then again, I have a sense of right and wrong, and apparently we differ on our sense of right and wrong. That's a huge difference in religions, isn't it? That we, at different religions, have a different sense of what's right and what's wrong. Now, sometimes I think there's one truth that you could say that we all tend to have some similarities, but there are clearly differences of what's right and what's wrong. And nobody even stopped to wonder, was this okay for him to leave his wife and kids? They all say, no, that was fine because he got enlightened. And I just think, no, I think you should have stayed with your wife and kids and perhaps not ate so many figs. But it was a reaction against Hinduism as too hard to achieve this nirvana. What's also interesting about Buddhism is that there are 2 major types of Buddhism and several other underlying types of Buddhism, but most Buddhism is actually atheist. So you go from pantheism that says everything is God to Buddhism that says there is no God. But then it's all spiritual still, so it's and perhaps I'm not understanding Buddhism, and I fully confess that Hinduism and Buddhism are, I know I'm not fully grasping what they are saying, but they're 4 Noble Truths. Suffering is universal. The cause of suffering is selfish desire. Okay? And really, when they say selfish desire, depending on who you're reading, this is not saying only selfish desire is evil. It's saying all desire is selfish. You understand that? In other words, if you just put desire, the cause of suffering is desire. Any kind of desire at all. The cure for suffering is to eliminate desire. Okay? The cure for suffering is to eliminate desire. Selfish desire is eliminated by following the middle path, the Eightfold Path. So here's your 4 Noble Truths. He is describing the problem and the solution, right? As we've seen, different worldviews, first of all, diagnose the problem differently. But depending on how you diagnose the problem, that will then help you discover your particular cure. But if you have a different diagnosis of the problem, you're certainly going to have a different cure. And that's what we see in the different religions. This one here says, Buddhism says the problem is desire. What did Christianity say the problem was? Sin. These are two different things. Does Christianity say desire is bad? No. Now there is a sinful desire when you covet someone else's goods or something like that. But to desire in and of itself, to desire God, is that a bad thing? To desire to have a happy life, is that a bad thing? No, God gave us these desires and so forth. There's nothing inherently evil with desire, at least from a Christian standpoint. But Buddhism says that that is the ultimate problem with the universe.
Do you know if they differentiate in between desire and selfish desire?
No, that's why I said earlier, when I say selfish desire, I mean they believe all desire is selfish. Okay? So, and most of the books that I've read don't even use this phrase, selfish desire. Probably should. They say desire, or I'm trying to think of the other word they use for that. Desire. Okay? So, the Eightfold Path helps you stop desiring. Stop having any kind of passion. Here's your Eightfold Path. Can be discovered in 3 categories. First category, understanding, which would include right viewpoint and right aspiration. So you have to have the right viewpoint, right aspiration, that's understanding. Morals, you have to have right speech, right behavior, right occupation, and right effort. And then third, concentration, right-mindedness, and right meditation. Meditation becomes a huge part of this right meditation. Let me read about this meditation, because sometimes when we understand meditation, we're thinking differently than Eastern meditation is quite different than biblical meditation. So the 8th stage in the path is right meditation. The proper form and content of meditation is important. There are a variety of postures and exercises used in this state. Breath control exercises are essential. One may focus vision on an object or symbol. One may repeat certain sacred words from the sutras, Buddhist sacred writings. Buddhists who arise at this last state will then experience certain trances. The trances are characterized as the serenity of body and mind, the freedom of the intellect, rising above joy and suffering, and the conquest of mind over all ignorance. One can see beyond birth to see the cause of rebirth. One has rooted out all craving and has overcome suffering. The wheel of becoming has been overcome. The Eightfold Path has been completed and one has arrived at enlightenment. Buddhist in this stage and in this experience is ready for nirvana. One has become an arahat. So through this process, not as hard as the asceticism of Hinduism, but both have the same goal, is to this obtaining of nirvana. You've heard of the band Nirvana? Okay, they named themselves after this. Nirvana literally means to be snuffed out. They liken it to a drop of water dropped in the ocean. The drop of water ceases to be. So for them, what we might call heaven, nirvana, means to cease to be. To cease being an individual. To cease the differentiation. To become one with the one.
That guy really played the role in that band.
What's that?
He really played the role of the band.
Okay. So when Westerners try to embrace the Eastern thought, they usually take some of it and leave others away. We'll see that when we get to the New Age movement. Okay, but this idea of right meditation, so through this eightfold path, you obtain nirvana and you cease to be. Now there is also, we have the eightfold path, and you have the 10 precepts.
Well, question.
Yes.
All those things are right this, right this. Who defines right? Is that in the precepts then?
Perhaps. I don't know. Where does the right? Yeah, according to the Buddha, so you'd have to go hang out with a Buddha or something for a while. I
Isn't
really
it kind of
don't
the same thing where it says, desire is selfish? Wouldn't you desire to be able to achieve those goals of doing that?
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of just...
Aren't you desiring nirvana? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like the person who went into the bookstore and he said, "Could you tell me where the self-help section is?" And the guy said, "Well, if I told you that, defeat the purpose, wouldn't it?" Okay, 10 precepts. Here they are. These are the 10 precepts that kind of help you do the right stuff, I guess. Refrain from destroying life. Don't take what is not given. Be chaste. Don't have sex. Be honest. Do not drink intoxicants. Do not eat after noon. Do not watch dancing or singing or drama. Do not wear ornaments or scents or garlands. Do not have a high or broad bed. And do not possess any silver or gold. So these would be the 10 precepts of the Buddha. So, if any of you have one of those broad beds, shame on you.
Yeah, but the Old Testament says something about sideburns and stuff.
Okay.
You have to read context.
Sure. So how is Buddhism different from and similar to Hinduism and Christianity? So we've seen these, and I suppose you could throw in atheism or naturalism, these different worldviews. How is Buddhism different, unique, and similar?
Well, similar to the 10 Commandments or the 10 Precepts. I know there's a lot of goofiness in there, but there are a few principles that are parallel.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so 10, somehow they each got 10, yeah, similarity. What else? Is Buddhism similar to Hinduism? That might be the difference, I suppose. The goal is to cease to be. Remember, Buddhism is atheistic. They don't even believe in God, so the goal is not to become God, it's to cease to be. To become part of the whole. So they seem to have similarities there. Reincarnation is embraced by both. They have this idea of getting off of the whole karma wheel and so forth. Yeah.
Say that Buddhism is more of a way of life than a religion. And I actually knew a guy who was a Buddhist student.
Okay. Well, remember Hinduism could also embrace other religions, and so Buddhism certainly would not deny that either. So you could have, but I think you might be onto something, that it's more of a way of life. Like Confucianism certainly is more of a way of life than, though there are religious aspects to this. I wouldn't say it isn't a religion, but it is quite a bit more of a way of life. Similar even, how is Buddhism similar to naturalism? It's a question. How?
Some Buddhists, some vegetarian, and some aren't.
Okay. Well, they're not supposed to destroy life, which that one there, okay.
Thailand.
I always wondered about the pork carrot. I mean, have you ever thought about those poor things? They're just living there in the dirt, not doing anything, minding their own business, and someone just comes and literally rips it out of its environment and then just devours it in their mouths. I mean, that's just like cruelty that I cannot imagine.
But the carrot doesn't have a main producer.
Okay, so perhaps they need to reframe this. Refrain from destroying sentient life. That's probably how. Because that is what they usually practice. That's why they don't eat meat and so forth. So it's sentient life. It has feelings. Okay, but back to the naturalism thing. Buddhism and naturalism are both the goal, or at least the end product is you cease to be. You cease existing. Naturalism doesn't see that as a nice goal. They don't really want that. They just say that is the inevitability of things. But the Buddhist would say that's actually the goal, is to cease to be. So that's kind of a similarity but difference here when we see when we look at these different beliefs. Yes. Communism was complete naturalism. They rejected all gods, and they just simply embraced the idea that what mattered was the state. So the individual was not important as long as, except for that it helped the state. Well,
there is a geopolitical view of Hinduism, though, that it was the only way the powerful could stay in power was by, in essence, making up this religion of the caste system and reincarnation so they could always stay in power. And you have 1 billion people even today that still, many of them believe in that caste system, and they don't revolt because of it. So cynics would say it's not a religion, it was all geopolitical in its infancy.
So Marx might have been correct, at least in regard to Hinduism, is what you're suggesting.
Well,
the idea that religion is the opiate of the people.
The opiate of the masses. But there is a cynical belief that Hinduism has nothing to do with religion and is purely geopolitical.
Okay. How it began, I don't know. It's a possibility.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the higher broad bed, because that doesn't seem to really fit with the other 10 in kind of the sense of what they're trying to say, could that be a cultural...
I'm sure it was.
I mean, couldn't it be, it's probably not referring to actually your bed, but it is a state of choices.
No, I think that people who had a high broad bed, that was the more upper class. They liked to have a little more cushion. They had luxury. It was a part of desire. I want to be comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, though, is that it's probably not...
It fits, right. It fits the idea of don't seek comfort. Because comfort is desire. Huh?
No big screen TV?
No. No TV, I think. Okay, just a second here. Okay, so we are at a good place of taking our break, and then we'll come back to the New Age movement, which is the last section of this pantheistic understanding. So pantheism, we saw Hinduism, Buddhism, and now we'll look at the New Age movement. All have a pantheistic outlook. But let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break or so, and then we'll come back. Get a cup of coffee. Now we're going to go to the New Age movement. We're going to look at 6 points of the New Age movement. Heavily grateful to Douglas Groothius in his book Unmasking the New Age. And so we want to look at 6 points of the New Age movement. And so the first one, all is one. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All is one. This is once again, the New Age movement is kind of a Western borrowing of Eastern thought. That's how you could put it. And all is one. Any perceived differences between separate entities, between Joe and Judy, or between Joe and a tree, or between God and Judy, are all apparent and not real. Okay? But where did the idea come from in the first place?
I think that at the subatomic level, they think everything's the same energy.
Okay.
Sort of like
Quantum mechanics there, subatomic.
That's what they use for their...
Okay, hey, that sounds good. Let's, we'll take that. All is one. Second, all is God. The idea of a personal God is abandoned in favor of an impersonal energy, force, or consciousness. So all is God. Can you think of a movie that portrays this idea? Avatar. Similar. Star Wars, definitely. That was the one I was looking for. Star Wars, the force, impersonal energy that's throughout the universe, ultimately is not personal. It's impersonal, impersonal force. Let's see here. So all is God. Humanity is God, therefore. The Swami Muktananda, a great influence on Werner Erhard, founder of Est and Forum, pulls no pantheistic punches when he says, kneel to your own self, honor and worship your own being. God dwells within you as you.
That almost sounds like the creed of the Satanic Church.
Well, it's probably similar, as well as the Humanist Manifesto. We could look at that as well. Whether it comes from Eastern religions such as Hinduism, Atman is Brahman, the individual self is really the universal self, or from classical occultism, as above, so below, God and humanity are one, or from the new self-actualizing psychologies, all knowledge, power, and truth are within and waiting to be unlocked. The New Age raises the placard of pantheism high. You are God. You just forgot. Kind of a God, though. Could forget that it's God. Quandary. A change in consciousness. Our problem is simply ignorance. So our problem, notice they're not borrowing from Hinduism now or Buddhism. Our problem is not selfish desire or any of those things. Our problem is simply ignorance. And through a mystical experience, through drugs, or even UFOs, as they have suggested, you can have a change in consciousness and obtain the understanding that you are God and that all is God and so forth. Okay? So they don't have a problem, at least different groups don't have a problem with drugs, UFOs, mystical experiences, whatever can bring that about. Shirley MacLaine, her book, Out on a Limb. I turned it off. There we go. She said even UFOs or supposed extraterrestrial contact may result in a conversion to New Age philosophy. She was inspired by an extraterrestrial named the Mayan. Shirley MacLaine. Erhard, in his Est programs, this is a description of those, 2 successive weekends of marathon sessions designed to help them get it. During the sessions, they are confined to their chairs for long hours without note-taking, talking, smoking, clock watching, or sitting next to anyone they know. Minimal food and bathroom breaks are strictly observed. Each of the 16-hour sessions is led by a trainer who berates, taunts, and humiliates the crowd by insisting that their lives don't work. The sustained intensity leads many to become sick, cry, or break down in some other way. That's the goal. Through the agonizing hours of torture, the tears turn to insight and the sickness into enlightenment. The participants are told you're part of every atom in the world. There you go. And every atom is part of you. We are all gods who created our own worlds. Eventually the people, at least some of them, claim to get it. They experience enlightenment and oneness. From 1971 to 1981, 325,000 people from the United States, Europe, Middle East, and Asia were ested, including celebrities such as Yoko Ono, Carly Simon, Diana Ross, and John Denver, who is a self-appointed evangelist for the cause. This was written prior to his death, so he was a self-appointed evangelist. He, I believe, died running into a tree while skiing.
No, airplane.
It was the airplane? That's how it crashed? So either he or the airplane forgot they were God.
Well, it almost sounds like an occult.
It is, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now let's just skip that there. Okay, so a change in consciousness. All religions are one. That's very similar to what we saw on the movie. This is called, two different words, syncretism and pluralism. Syncretism is the idea where you take a little bit of this religion, a little bit of that religion, a little bit of that religion, and put it together to make one really good religion. That's syncretism. The one difficulty with that is if there is a perfect religion, if there is a way in which God is described as His way, then any addition of some other religion would not actually make it better. It would actually make it worse, wouldn't it? Somewhat like taking a glass of pure water and a glass of dirty water. If the water is pure, to add the dirty water to it would not make the water more pure, would it? It would make it dirty. So if there is a pure religion, then this concept of syncretism is faulty. But if God has declared Himself accurately, as we believe as Christians in His Word, as we've looked at the Word, that it is trustworthy and it does have the miraculous nature of God stamped on it, then this is a trustworthy account of God's ways. It doesn't mean we live it perfectly, because we're sinful, right? But there is a perfect way. So to say to add other religions to that would make it impure. So that would be the fault of syncretism. Pluralism is different. Pluralism is the idea that all religions are basically the same. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to syncretize them. You don't have to have a little of that. You just, any one of them, it doesn't matter. All roads lead to the one. And so no religion is superior or inferior to another. Now, but if there are parts of a religion that aren't good, then that would be an inferior aspect of it, wouldn't it? When we get to Islam, we'll talk about jihad, at least the jihad that we see when people crash planes into buildings, we would say that's not good. So pluralism could not be true, at least with that one, or Satanism, or whatever. But this idea of all religions are one is usually mimicked from their words, but not really thought too much about. So we do need to challenge them in that.
But
yes.
You said they have evangelists. John Denver was an evangelist. How can all religions be one and it wouldn't matter?
An evangelist of embracing the truth that it doesn't matter what you believe, that all religions are one. I don't know. He was an evangelist of Est, that particular branch. Yeah. Cosmic evolutionary optimism. As this philosophy gains ground and infiltrates all of life with the gospel of cosmic unity, it is predicted that humanity will be ready to take over the reins of evolution. That we'll be able to control evolution and evolve ourselves into this cosmic evolutionary utopia. Okay, my one question, do we have any evidence for this optimism? None. This is a blind leap in the dark type of faith. The Bible does not ever tell us to take a blind leap in the dark. It is faith founded on fact. But the New Age movement certainly believes in this blind leap in the dark, cosmic evolutionary optimism. And those are 6 points of the New Age movement. I want to get to where Christians have been influenced by the New Age movement in just a moment here. But any questions on the New Age movement? Seems like earlier than the 80s. Yeah, I think those swamis were coming over in the 60s. They started coming over in the 60s, and then it just kind of spun off of that. Just a borrowing of the Eastern along with the Western thought and so forth. In fact, reincarnation was a great thing in the New Age movement. They didn't see it as an evil thing. They really liked it. And everyone that embraced it, like Shirley MacLaine and all these other movie stars, they always found out that in their past life they were someone real famous. You ever see that? Everybody can't be someone famous in their past life. I mean, come on. Out of 6 billion people, that's just highly unlikely that everyone's going to be someone famous in their past life. You know, in your past life, you were probably just a bum on the street and then a toad on the, in the Amazon jungle and then whatever. I don't know, but there's this idea. But reincarnation is kind of glorified in the New Age movement as opposed to Hinduism, which sees it as a tremendous evil. Yeah, well, it seems like there's some worship that goes on. Quite often it's Mother Earth, so they worship with crystals, using crystals and other things to help them experience these altered states of consciousness. So there's a sense of worship there, yes. But there's definitely no sense of morality. There's no moral system involved here. It's kind of having your cake and eating it too, kind of a thing. Yes?
When I was coming back to Christ, I had a friend who was leaving the Christian religion, getting into New Age, and she talked a lot about angels. But, in my spirit, I kind of sensed, well, yes, angels are biblical, but there's something wrong with how she was relating to them, and I later found out why. But they were really big into crystals and felt that power came from it. We went shopping one time, and one of the gals that I was with picked one up and was like, ooh, this one has a lot of power.
Yeah. Now with angels, once again, they embrace the syncretism, so they'll take a little bit of Christianity, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And Jesus was just another, avatar.
Yeah, there was many gods created earth.
Crystals, it's kind of interesting because they love to go to like Colorado and the mountains where there's lots of crystals. You know where the most crystals are? The desert. Why don't they ever go there? Too hot. Yeah, it sounds beautiful. But that'd be the place to get your energy, don't you think? Anyway, the sand dunes, yes.
You said that there's a promotion of self-worship. How does that tend to manifest itself?
I don't know.
Well, because that's opposite of the asceticism, potentially.
Oh, absolutely. And once again, they did not borrow any of that. They're total hedonists. No morality, no 10 concepts, nothing like that at all. They embraced their Epicureanism from the West and combined it with their few little Hindu nuggets over here to have just everything that they would want.
Well, it kind of seems like the change in consciousness might tie in with that because it's all about how you feel.
Yeah, it's clearly all about you, and that's what they're bringing out here.
A lot of New Age persons or people have mixed with a lot of pagan stuff. We see a lot of paganism in New
Wicca, very close to New Age, yeah.
How that people really coming up with what there's different types of paganism, following these stuff that people are coming up with, mixing and actually coming up with their own, mixing this from this, and this from Wicca, this from New Age, and this from Buddhism, and there, that's what I think.
Syncretism run rampant. Yeah. What does the Bible say, especially in the Old Testament, about syncretism? He certainly did not like it, did he? Whenever the Israelites tried to borrow from the other religions, they ended up getting punished from him. Yeah, so it's, at least from a biblical standpoint, this idea of syncretism. Because basically what you're doing is you're making up your own religion. Now think about this. The one religion you know can't be the true one is the one you made up. But you made it up. How can that possibly be the true one? And you might say, well, I discovered it, me. But once again, this is the total focus on yourself, pride that nobody else discovered this until you came along, kind of a thing. And no, unless God reveals, and there's some, once again, we looked at those tests, if there's some miraculous nature behind it, and God revealed it in such a way that everyone could know exactly what he revealed, revelation really is our only option for a good legitimate source of a final authority.
But then, if they believe, because we believe that statement because we believe God is outside of us, but this religion believes that I am God.
Right.
So then I can make up my own religion. And who are you to say it's not right because I'm God?
Yeah. And you certainly can. It's just that when we look at it from a logical standpoint, we see that it can't possibly be true.
So there's no real definition of a person that is a follower or involved with New Age movement because it's not really one religion, it's just all over the place.
Yeah, it's a bunch. Yeah,
so you really
right,
wouldn't, a person wouldn't say, I'm a New Ageist or something.
Well, they would.
They would?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very popular. There are New Age shops. And, you go into these New Age shops and you see the crystals. There's the big thing in the New Age shops. Really big in Colorado, by the way. So, that's... Okay, well, I want to look at how Christians have been influenced by the New Age, but I thought we'd watch a video clip. Let's see if Mark's paying attention. A video clip to kind of see, maybe we can see that, yes, we have been influenced slightly by the New Age.
That's loud.
Up and ready. Commence primary ignition.
Somehow we thought it was in there, but it wasn't there. But that was nice. Yeah.
Turn your target scanner back on.
Yeah, maybe it was
the one?
Yeah, that's that one.
Use the force, Luke.
Where he says, he's starting to get his machine going. He's got all the radars and everything going, and then he hears the voice. Luke, use the force. Turn that off, Luke. Use the force. and then he does, and then he's able to, somehow get in touch with the universe, and then was able to shoot the button there. Okay. Sure.
Just as human beings, thinking about the New Age movement, where do we think oftentimes our actions will follow? So if we're near to God and His Word and the community of believers, we're less apt to be moving into all of this stuff. We have to be really careful in this day and age, just with the technology in education and medicine and whatever. There's just I think a lot of people move into that not knowing really what it is. I mean, some intentionally move into that, but there are strands of this everywhere, from children's cartoons to...
Sure. It's an excellent point, and your first observation, I think, is absolutely essential. That as Christians, we need to be reading this book every day, because this is God's worldview. This is what we believe as Christians. This is God's worldview. That God's worldview is the only worldview that doesn't need glasses, that doesn't need fixing. From God's worldview, as we saturate ourselves in His Word, we won't be adversely affected by the world's portrayal of the worldview. And from the media and movies and cartoons and this and that, we can be adversely affected. Two possible solutions. One group says what we need to do as Christians is completely stay away from all forms of faulty worldviews. That we need to hibernate and hide, and that way we won't be adversely affected by this. The Amish are a great example of this idea. If we just completely stay away from, don't use, so we are not influenced by, that's how we can escape that influence. Okay? I don't think that that's a biblical option. The scriptures say that we are to be fully engaging in our world, in our cultures that we find ourselves in. But how do we do that in a way that we're not adversely affected by those cultures and worldviews? And I say it's by making sure we're saturating ourselves in God's Word. Anyone who tends to start moving in a direction away from the biblical worldview, if you just ask them, are you reading your Bible every day? I would guarantee 99% of them will say no. They lost this perspective, and then they start embracing this idea of culture or that idea of culture or whatever, but ask them, are you reading your Word? Because this is how we make sure that we see things the way God sees them. And God has given us His Word as a wonderful tool to be able to counteract that adverse effect and yet still enjoy Star Wars or other movies or whatever, but with a critical assessment, not watching it blindly, with our tuners off, we're watching it and going, that was wrong. Some movies you do have to just turn off. If it's got, nudity, don't give me this thing as I'll just close one eye, You don't need to watch that kind of stuff. That's just my opinion, okay? So some stuff you just need to say no. But there are other things in which we can, in order to be able to embrace our culture and have dialogue where you can understand where they're coming from and you have a common appeal, like your T-shirt there. What is that? A game of the past? Someone else sees it and they go, hey, you like that game? Let me see that kind of stuff. I like Call of Duty. Anyway, okay. So now let's go ahead and look at how Christians, though, have been influenced by New Age thought. Some of you, in one of these, I'm sure, are going to be mad. So I just ask you. Batteries? Yeah, looks like we need batteries. Let's go ahead. Change them now. I have a warning. It's low on batteries. This one here is something else. Anyway, okay, so I asked you ahead of time, forgive me, okay? It's okay for you to disagree with me. It's okay for me to disagree with you, right? Fair? Okay. And you're saying, well, unless. Okay. Let's see here. These are ways in which I think Christianity has been influenced by the New Age thought at times. One is the Bible code. That's a popular thing. There's books written about this, that there's this secret hidden code revealing Gnostic insights if you do the math work of the letters and so forth. And they've done things where they showed this happened and that by this little Bible code you can find this and that. But I saw some studies on the Bible code. They actually also did the same thing with, it wasn't Lord of the Rings, but it was with something else like that. And they discovered the same stuff, okay? You can make something say anything you want to with your fancy codes and stuff.
Does that include the Hebrew?
Yes, that whole thing with Hebrew letters really mean numbers and this and that.
Yeah.
The Bible never says to do that.
No.
So, disregard it. That's my opinion, once again, okay? Second one, Christian symbols have magical powers. So you might have a symbol of a cross, and there's somehow magical powers. And you've heard of people that had a Bible in their pocket and the bullet hit the Bible and whatever, you know. So the Bible had magical powers in it. That's occultism, not Christianity. Okay? The idea that the Lord's Supper, which is a symbol of the body of Jesus Christ, in the Middle Ages, this is a true story, okay? In the Middle Ages, farmers would take, instead, the priest would have to check the farmers at the door, check their mouths, to make sure they weren't hiding the piece of bread from the Lord's Supper. And to make sure they swallowed it, because what farmers would do is they'd hide it, they wouldn't swallow it, they'd take it home to give it to their sick cow. Because they felt like there was these magical powers that would bring healing to their cow. Okay, you know, this is true, okay? That these kinds of things, because they saw magical powers in these things, the scriptures never teach anything like that.
You're not going to be healed if you touch a piece of toast in the shape of the Virgin Mary?
No shape of toast, or even if you find it on a tree in Boston, was it? I think they just found. Yeah. Nope, it won't help. It's pagan occultism, not Christianity. Shamanistic powers seen in leaders. Certain leaders are seen with special divine knowledge and powers, and this is the elevating of humans onto a pedestal they were never meant to be on. And, it's okay to like favorite authors and those kinds of things, but when we start thinking of them as super spiritual, when they fall, it devastates everyone, doesn't it? And, but when you start looking at them as almost like a demigod, that has gone way too far. And we're supposed to be just the church of no names. Jesus Christ, His name, and His alone is to be glorified. We're all just a bunch of doofuses, working our way through this thing called life. And somehow God uses us anyway. Anti-intellectualism. If you notice some of these things, if you follow the New Age movement, and you start asking them these questions, they won't have an answer like, I just think there's power in a crystal, or whatever. There's an anti-intellectualism that's there, but you see this in Christianity quite often. An anti-intellectualism is the idea that, all those people who try to be smart and try to obtain knowledge, they're just following the ways of the devil. We just need to be ignorant and we can just receive from God, from the Spirit, the truth and so forth. No, God gave us brains. And He said, love the Lord your God with all of your mind, heart, soul, and strength. So at any rate, this is one way in which we've been influenced. Now here's the one you might not like me for, okay? Alternative medicine or foods having secret power powers beyond what science reveals. Now, I want to just say that in that lengthy statement, because I'm not saying that there aren't foods and vitamins and so forth that might be good for us that are found in the alternative medicine section of your wherever. Okay, usually, I'm not saying that. I'm sure that there's something to some of that. But I said alternative medicine or foods having secret powers beyond what science reveals. In other words, it's almost a cult of this idea that the modern doctors are all in this for the money, and they have this huge conspiracy because they just want to cut people open. And so what we're going to do, and they're hiding the truth that really through these mustard seeds you could be healed of cancer or whatever, okay? And it's that mentality of the alternative medicine. And I say this, I want to add this phrase again, okay? So hopefully you're not mad at me. Beyond what science reveals. If people are willing to expose these things to the scientific method, and that means you have a hypothesis, you put it to the test, if over and over again you find some good results from it, then you can say this is a valid theory, right? That's perfectly acceptable. It's the idea that, no, we don't want to put these things to the test, because if we do, maybe that's some lack of faith in the alternative medicine thing, because we know the doctors are all in for money. Do you know how much money the alternative medicine people make?
No kidding.
Billions of dollars. So don't think that they're the non-greedy ones and the doctors are the greedy ones, okay? No, and once again, that doesn't mean you couldn't find out. I'll give you a classic example of this. The St. John's wort. It was something just propounded by this group saying this is the alternative to depression. If you take St. John's wort, it will heal your depression. They actually did many, many studies on it. They found, first of all, it has absolutely no effect at all. And that's when you do the blind tests and so forth. Yes, some people might take it like a sugar pill, and you might as well take a sugar pill. If you think it's going to help you, then sometimes it does. But there's actually no beneficial thing in the St. John's wort itself for depression. But number two, they found out it's bad for you. It does have some bad things for you. So, but what's wrong with putting these things to the test? Who's doing the testing, I suppose, is the question and all that. But I'm just saying this is at least the potential in which we have bought into the New Age thought that crystals are good for you and all these other things without any evidence, scientific evidence at all. And I would just argue, search the scientific evidence for it. Anybody hate me? Okay. Last time I taught this, I was beat up. So it's a little gun shy now. All right. So, pros and cons of pantheism in any of these forms. Pros and cons of pantheism, whether it be Hinduism, Buddhism, or New Age movement. It's a good point. In fact, it would seem to me, at least if you followed the Buddha and his example, that relationships in and of themselves produce too much desire, and so you're best off not having relationships. That's why you have the monks that live on the mountains and whatever. I don't know. I don't think all Buddhists would say that. They probably have an answer somehow or another, but it seems to me the logical conclusion, if that is the ultimate problem.
Many of these examples, there isn't a lot of good reasons to necessarily help the poor, right? Because, everyone's going to be God anyway, and if they got to work it out, the idea of helping the poor.
It's a good point. I think it seems to me you don't see a lot of it, of helping the poor in India, which is the biggest country for Hinduism. They definitely do not help their poor at all. It's Christians that go over there that help the poor predominantly in India. That doesn't mean no Hindus help the poor, but it seems that very, very few do. I read some studies that India, in and of itself, its resources, has enough resources to feed the world, and yet they can't even feed themselves. And it's primarily because of their religion. And that's tragic, but it seems to me, at least, and this is just my going by, I have no scientific evidence, no studies or tests, it seems to me that New Agers have a care for the poor. That they at least are active in that, some way, somehow. Most of the actors are New Agers, okay? And they seem to have a care for the poor. But once again, they have not borrowed fully from the Hindu thought of pantheism. So that might be why they're exception. And I could be reading them wrong. Maybe I'm just hearing them say they care for the poor, when actually they really don't. They're just all about themselves. Anyway, I don't know.
But their theology, there's nothing in their theology telling them to help the poor.
No, it's all about yourself. Yeah. But they're syncretistic, so they seem to borrow those ideas, and I would say borrow them from Christianity. Yeah.
What about karma? Like, if you're not supposed to help someone who's suffering from their bad karma, and it's like, how do you develop good karma?
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you don't care about them. You just help them anyway, even though you know you're going to send them off on a lower wheel. You're going to make them become a frog next time.
Would that be selfish? So you're making bad karma while you're trying to...
Yeah, because you're not supposed to have any desire at all if you're Buddhist. But those are good. And the point being here that we want to say, it doesn't make sense. It's not rational. God did give us a brain. Wisdom in the scriptures is highly exalted. That we are to seek wisdom as if it's like we're seeking silver and gold and treasure. That's how much we're supposed to seek wisdom. So to use our minds, to understand properly. Now there's a faulty wisdom and a worldly wisdom and a biblical wisdom, but it's still the use of the mind. And God is not illogical. So those are good points.
It seems like with all three of these, there's very few absolutes. It seems like everything is very subjective. For the most part, they say you shouldn't take life, and that can be determined. Basically, it's up to you what you consider taking life.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's okay to take your baby's life. I don't think, not too many New Agers are upset with abortion, but it's perfectly acceptable, but it's wrong to step on an ant or whatever. It's interesting.
In India, we can't kill a cow, or there are places we can't kill a rat, but India is one of the biggest abortion countries in the world.
Yeah. Funny. Doesn't make sense.
It seems like they're all coming from a prideful stance, because it's denying one's God and his existence, his word and his wills, and going off on all these different paths that
Romans 1 explains where all the other religions came from. It says all other religions came from people who resisted God's truth and therefore formed their own, from their own selfish desires.
And it creates so much self-destruction to them and everyone else that they invite into
They might not mean that. I mean, I think that Hindus are very sincere. But once again, sincerity is not the ultimate value.
Exactly. Because, I mean, look at how these nations suffer, how these people suffer through conversion. Because they all want to look at the myths, I think, of what God has given us. It's like Satan in the garden. A little bit of the truth is a lie. Make some just good enough. And then you see the destruction.
This is a question, but stereotype probably, but India has high intellectual, just
For some castes.
what?
For some castes.
The high intellectual elements of India, they've borrowed from the West. The Western thinking came to India, and then the higher castes embraced the technology and the insights, still somewhat holding on to. And in a lot of these people, in all of these religions, you have your serious devotees, and then you have your, it's just the way I was born, raised, whatever, you know, I don't want to argue with it because I don't want to cause trouble, but, you know, hey, I'm all about, you know, moving up the ladder kind of a deal. So, you know, how many, I remember being on a plane with a Muslim, and we were talking, and after a while, you know, we talked a little bit about the difference of Christianity and Islam. And a little while later, he gets a beer on the plane. I didn't say anything, but I was just like, I know your book says you're not supposed to do that, but you know, so you know, he obviously wasn't totally sincere about that, but he was sincere about his kids. He asked me questions about how do you raise a teenager, and he was, you know, really struggling with that. His teenager was, you know, starting to act up and whatever. And, yeah. Anyway, okay. Any other thoughts on that before we move on to the next worldview? Okay. Right, isn't that interesting? Hinduism, you have waves of persecution, and it's not because they don't embrace Christianity as a potential one of the gods. It's because Christians tell them they have to convert. See, the guy we saw on the screen, he didn't do a good job. He shared the gospel and he shared the love of God with the kid, but he didn't say, you have to convert. You have to change paths. You can't just add this on as another path along with your Hindu path. When Christians do that, then it upsets them. And that's where then the persecution comes. Okay, well, the next one we're going to look at here is Islam. And we're going to spend some time on it, on Islam and their beliefs. 2.1 billion adherents, at least from this point here. And I have to switch slides in order to do that. We got like, I don't know if this clock is right. How many minutes do we got left? 4 minutes. So I probably don't have enough time to switch slides, so why don't we just go ahead and stop. We'll pick up with Islam next week, and we'll also try to look at modernism and postmodernism, and what those concepts are. Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think we can get all that done next week. Because this is our 7th week, right? So our 8th week, if I were to cover those, that would be good. And so we'll try that. Yes. About what? Unitarian. Okay. Okay, Unitarianism. Let me say this too. I'm going to answer your question, but I forgot to say this. Please, if you haven't signed in, you know, we're just trying to keep track of the registration there. But Unitarianism started out as the belief that there's just one God and Jesus isn't God. So it was just a denial of the Trinity and so forth. Unitarianism, though, in doing that, very, very quickly embraced liberal understandings of the Bible and so forth. And then they the Unitarians united with the Universalists. Universalism was the idea that everyone goes to heaven and this and that. The two united into one group, Unitarian Universalists. By that, embracing that second part, universalism, all religions are the same. So within those churches, they will read out of the Quran, out of the Bible, out of someone's poetry book or whatever, because it's all the same thing. Clearly, an embracing of some of these New Age thoughts creep in as well, and you even have some of them being Wicca, witches, and so forth. That's how it evolved. Okay. All right, we'll see you all later. Have a great week.